Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and today we're looking at My Hero Academia, Boku no Hero Academia number 77. So before getting into the nitty gritty elements of this chapter, I want to apologise for any delays with this. I am currently on a schedule where I look to do 2 videos a day at least, on a part-time schedule in my own time. So this is literally, I'm not doing this full time, I'm not getting paid for any of this just yet. It is very early days, so I have to schedule this in to kind of coincide with work, with home life, with gym, and then we've got to consider that you do rendering and everything else, which can take up to an hour. In any case, apologies about the delay. It is out now. I'm going to try getting this more into schedule moving forward. But without further ado, let's get into the chapter. Before we get into it though, I just want to say thank you for all those that are viewing, commenting, liking, disliking and subscribing. For those who haven't subscribed just yet, I will leave a thumbnail up here. You can just subscribe at any point in the video and I will leave a link in the description below. Let's get into it though. So, in summary, the chapter in itself, again, it's a relatively simple chapter, but what I like about My Hero Academia and the mangaka here is even though we keep the plot for any given chapter relatively simple, the content and the information that we're given and the pace it moves at is really fast and really decent, to the point where you don't feel like it's dragging. You really want to see what happens next, and I can really see this going somewhere. I know this is going to be the next big thing that people are really enjoying. I can see why. So relatively simple chapter. The outcome of the Izuku fight. Also, we find out a little bit about Aizawa, what's going on a little bit with the Pussycat Dolls, and a little message at the end. So we've got 5 points. We're going to get into it straight away. Let's get into it. Point number one. Point number one really is a conversation between Shigaraki and Black Mist. So Shigaraki is the dude that has his hands covered like this all the time, and he's got some funky abilities. He's the one that Izuku was speaking to when he was kind of held hostage in the shopping mall, and Black Mist is the guy that can teleport things. So they're having a conversation at their bar, and basically essentially what he's been asked, Shigaraki, is are you okay with them just going by themselves? And he explains that he's taken a different outlook now. He was treating it like a RPG, a role-playing game where he got all the powers together and I want to take on the boss. He's treating it like a Sims now, where he's manipulating the factors involved and kind of using the people as a pawn. So he goes, basically the goal is to effectively create a crack in the superhero society, and he's looking at a picture of Bakugou. What this can effectively lead to is the idea that potentially Bakugou is going to go bad, but it can also mean there may possibly be a relationship between him and Bakugou that Bakugou doesn't know about, because we haven't really seen his family. We've seen him by himself brushing his teeth at home and he's going 100%, but we haven't seen much more about him. So this could possibly lead to something like that. It also explains that he has faith in the people and he wants them to win. The main thing really is whether they win or lose, they want to create a crack in the superhero society. But that's point number one, or one I should. So point number two is really the outcome of the match. So the 1,000,000% punch that Izuku landed on his enemy has basically taken out for the count, to which he even says, I don't think this guy's going to get up anymore, not that I have any power to deal with him at the moment. But at the same time, he's also thinking about others. He goes, he has to tell Aizawa sensei, he has to help the others, and we really need to get to the facility. He also explains that, look, although I've saved you, he's speaking to Koto now, this is your chance to save us, because with your ability, you can cancel out the fire in the forest, which for a lot of people will create kind of dead ends, because they won't be able to go in certain directions because of that fire. And at which point he basically says, you've got the gift of water, I need to get you to the facility, hop him on board, and starts running. He goes, how are you able to do this? He goes, I saved my legs for a reason, which kind of gives you the idea, even when his back was against the wall, even when he thought he'd be able to handle the opponent, and it turned out the opponent was a lot stronger than he thought, he's still in the back of his mind thought he'll save his legs so that he can get to the facility using his 10% power. So you can see the development there, much like in point one, we can see the mental development, character development of the character. So there's a lot of development that this chapter is showing for both the villains and the heroes. So point number three. this I got wrong. I thought this would be a lot later, maybe in a future chapter, a few chapters down the line. But we get to find out the fate of Aizawa Sensei, and basically, being that he's a pro, he's not to be messed with, and he actually dodged the attack. So we find out that the attack is fire. He was blazing fire. He was able to cancel out that power, subdue his enemy, and even begin to try get some information, and to the point where he broke his left arm. Unfortunately for him, he does get momentarily distracted by the students coming out saying, "Is everybody okay? What's going on?" And he gets asked, "Do you find your students precious? Are they precious to you?" And he disappears to get Aizawa to think, what wasn't the fire his ability? So this could be that we have multiple abilities in the enemies, or something else. So we also find out after the escape that the person that attacked was called Dabi, and he was speaking to a guy that looks a lot like Deadpool, who has the ability to create clones. So it could be that him creating clones can put his ability into him. So for example, if the guy that looks like Deadpool creates a clone of a person, he may be able to give him the power of fire where the original person's ability isn't fire. So it's an interesting topic to bear in mind, and can lead to a plot down the future, because he just says, make another clone of me. I want to go and take out this pro while we can. He goes, look, I am weak. He goes, and the guy says to Darby, look, you're taking on a pro after all. So it shows there's a difference, and some of these villains may not be completely up to scratch to take on the pros, but at the same time, these pros have the experience on their side to can take on these enemies, and the reaction time and everything else. But that's point number 3. So point number 4. Point number 4 really is where Izuku actually runs into Aizawa. He explains Koto's ability, saying that it's going to be an asset, and he runs off. And Aizawa is basically thinking, you've gone and done it again. You've actually used your ability and destroyed your arms. What are you doing? And he goes, before you go, I have a message. Now, this message, we find out later on, I will leave that till the end, but effectively what happens, he takes that message and goes to where the pussycats are. So he wants to go to Mandalay, which is the lady who's Koto's auntie, who does the kind of the telepathy kind of thing, and basically he goes there. So when we get to that scene, we see that the tiger is the fight against the the mass murderer who's effectively reading all his abilities. So this could be the ability of the enemy, where he's able to kind of perceive and see through attacks once you've done them more than once. So he's been able to see through that combat style very easily, and even Mandalay is struggling and thinking this guy is tough. To her credit, she's still in there, but she gets help. Next thing you know, boom, incoming Izuku with a drop kick, smash, takes out the enemy, and he basically says, look, Koto is fine, but Aizawa Sensei has a message, can you please relay it? Which leads to point number 5, the message. Point number 5, the way the chapter ends. A good way to end the chapter, because it explains the difference between the mindsets from what they were doing at the moment to what they need to be doing now. The message is straightforward. He goes, from your teacher Aizawa Sensei, the Eraserhead, you have been given permission to go all out in combat. And thinks to himself, please don't die. This is a significant turning point in the battle, because it explains a few different things. Up until the point where they've got attacked, they've got to really, from a person's point of view, I guess the strategy is to assess where you are, assess where you can go and survive. And once we can figure out what's going on and how many enemies are involved, then the counterattack begins. This is the counterattack. Maybe it was the fact that Izuku's come in and he's shown he can survive. Maybe because of that, he's changed the mind of Aizawa Sensei and he's told him to go and attack. And that's where the chapter ends. What do you think is going to happen? I think now we are going to see bits and bats of fights, similar to how we saw it in the Ultimate Space Jams arc, where people get to fight against different enemies. However, you've got to bear in mind that point that specifically was mentioned in this chapter, that Darby got himself cloned because he wants to take out Aizawa Sensei because he sees the threat he has. So altogether, a very enjoyable chapter. Not that much happens, but you can see the influence Izuku is having, not only on the younger generation, the older generation, and the outcome of the fight. I would love to see what these other enemies can do, especially how you're going to tackle the Deadpool dude, and the abilities of all the other villains that are there, because there's meant to be 10, right? We've only seen 1 taken down. We want to see what's going to happen with the rest of them. Is there going to be a round 2 of Aizawa against Darby? I'll have to wait and see. And maybe he needs to take care of the original as well as the clone. That's possibly the only way you can get out of this. But that's all for me today, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe and share. I will leave The subscribe button should be here. I will leave a link here and here that will have the last chapter review for My Hero Academia and the playlist as well. Feel free to check out any of my other reviews that I am doing. I am doing quite a range of different mangas. I will be also including new ones. For example, I will be looking to do 7 Deadly Sins from next week. That's all for me today, guys. Peace.